Hello, I'm John McCullagh, GI4BWM, the 76th President of the Radio Society of Great Britain. I'm talking to you this morning from the Ofcom Spectrum Management Centre near Baldock in Hertfordshire. The centre here today has a much broader spectrum monitoring capability than when it began life in 1929. Its original role was to monitor the international HF radio circuits operated by the General Post Office, which followed on from historic first transatlantic radio telephony services received at the site from New Jersey, USA. Monitoring of the spectrum to keep it clear for authorised users is an essential part of the spectrum management function, and we're grateful to Ofcom for allowing us to record my review of the year at this historic location. When I was installed as President in April 2023, I did not imagine that amateur radio in the UK would see a once-in-a-lifetime change in our licensing conditions. It had been known for some time that Ofcom was minded to update our licence, and we had many discussions with the Ofcom team over the years on how our licence could be improved. When their consultation on updating the licensing framework was published in June, it quickly became clear that this was no mere tinkering around the edges, but was a complete shift towards simplification of the licence and liberalisation of what we will be able to do in the future. But more of that later. My main focus this year has been on ensuring that the strategy that was originally conceived in 2017 has now turned into objectives and targets that we can measure. We need to get people enthused and moving forward to advance amateur radio, keeping it relevant, alive and prospering. For a variety of reasons, the original strategy stalled, although the board recognised that it was still a valid way ahead. We reviewed the original list of priorities and condensed them into a shorter list which comprises the growth of amateur radio, increasing membership of the RSGB, spectrum and licensing, and the continued financial stability of the Society. We're using workshops to kickstart the process and get people enthused. We held the Growth of Amateur Radio workshops in early February and invited a very broad cross-section of volunteers and staff. We produced a focused set of outputs and agreed tasks to be taken forward over the coming months. These include the identification of target audiences for outreach, the formation of an outreach team, making connections with other organisations to support career development in the field of RF engineering, ensuring that we take full advantage of the new licence. The next step will be to look at membership of the Society and how we serve our members. We need to show the amateur community at large why it's important to be an RSGB member and ensure that we're a strong and fully representative body. We do need to re-engage with our members and ensure there is a flow of information across all parts of the Society, upwards, downwards, very importantly outwards. Our detractors often accuse us of a lack of transparency, but that's never intentional, and we're always willing to address any perceived shortcomings. One current area of focus is on the timely publication of minutes, proceedings, or key messages. We need to clarify what is the best way to report on our activities, how frequently this should happen, and who is responsible for sharing that information. The RSGB hasn't been immune to the huge rise in inflation over the past year or so. The board and staff are always striving to reduce costs without affecting member benefits. We're very aware of the impact on members of subscription rate increases. To give something back to members, I can announce that in 2024 we will be delivering a new benefit of electronic RADCOM delivered through a fully featured app, which will also make available an archive of 50 years of RADCOM. At the discussion with the board session at the RSGB convention in October, I confirmed that the board would give regular updates on the strategic priorities. We've done that monthly since January of this year and will continue to do so. You can read them in RADCOM or on the RSGB website. As the UK's National Society, we usually attend important events abroad so that we can keep in touch with other societies, find out what others are doing, and of course welcome new people to RSGB membership. We did not have a formal presence or stand at Friedrichshafen in 2023, although I was there together with the board chair, the General Manager and the Spectrum Forum Chair, who was on IARU business. Our usual stand was missed by many, and we should not neglect this opportunity in the future. It is a European showcase for amateur radio in all its incarnations, especially for representative societies. Being at the show and hearing how disappointed people were that RSGB didn't have a stand made us realise just how much people want to hear from their society. Although the board had considered not holding the RSGB convention in 2023, we quickly realised that not having one would be disastrous. After a brief discussion and checking dates and availability for the usual venue, we decided to proceed and set things in motion. More about the convention later. While we were walking around the numerous stands at Friedrichshafen, the news also broke that Ofcom had just released its long-awaited consultation on reviewing the amateur licensing framework. The Society acted immediately to communicate the news to make sure that all UK licensees were aware of the consultation. A communications plan was quickly devised that included a series of interactive webinars to spread the word and answer questions as best we could. We had to undertake a number of major tasks, including analysing the consultation document to see what exactly was being proposed. We also had to judge how it would affect our activities. Whilst the RSGB Spectrum Forum members did most of the work, we also had many discussions with other groups across the Society, and we put all that feedback into a full response to Ofcom. As you will know, Ofcom issued a statement in December with the results of the consultation, and we're now in the first phase of the new licence being implemented. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, the new licence is a huge change, liberalising many aspects of the rules we work under and enabling us to connect with people in new ways. We should take every opportunity to do that and to grow amateur radio. Following the formal part of the AGM, I'm delighted that there will be a presentation from Ofcom on the new licence so we can hear more about it and what it means for all of us. Turning back to the RSGB convention, it was a huge challenge to get things organised in the short time available, but Steve Thomas, M1ACB, our General Manager, pulled together a very strong team of staff and volunteers. My thanks go to Steve, Keith Hotchkiss, G0FEA, who volunteered to be the lecture coordinator, Heather Parsons, our Communications Manager, Mark Algar, M1MPA, the Commercial Manager, and all the others who put in so many late hours to ensure the event was a success. They delivered another enjoyable hybrid event with a varied programme of lectures, build-a-thon sessions and much more. Our online viewers were also able to watch some of the lectures as well as nearly 20 recorded or live interviews. Because the National Hamfest was cancelled in 2023, many of the RSGB committee representatives came to the convention instead. Not only enjoyed meeting people there, but were also interviewed for the live stream. I was pleased when Colonel John Doody agreed to be our keynote speaker. It was fascinating to hear him talk on his experiences in communications over a very long career in the Army and then GCHQ. I got roped in to do a talk on what the RSGB had done for me and what it could do for you. I think a lot of people forget that as a UK National Society for Amateur Radio, we're here to represent the interests of all radio amateurs, whether members or not, and that together with our 18 mostly part-time HQ staff and more than 600 volunteers, we provide a very wide range of services to the community. I listed many of these in my presentation. It's true to say that exams are the lifeblood of amateur radio. Without them, licences couldn't be obtained and the hobby would die. The RSGB has continued to provide a great service to all by the excellent efforts of our Examination Standards Committee, the Exam Syllabus Review Group, the HQ Exams Department and our band of willing volunteer invigilators. We also thank the training community for their excellent courses both on and offline. An enormous amount of effort goes into the production of the exam syllabus and the actual bank of exam questions, and I thank everyone involved. We're into really challenging timescales now in getting the syllabus revisions completed, reviewed and published, following the changes to our licence. As President, one of my first official duties was representing the RSGB at the IRTS AGM Gala Dinner in County Galway, following a kind invitation from ENDA EI2II, the IRTS President. It was interesting to hear the progress of our nearest sister society and to discover that they face similar challenges to us in attracting and retaining younger members. In November, in another official duty as RSGB President, I was the head of delegation to the IARU Region 1 Conference in Zlatibor, Serbia, accompanied by the RSGB Spectrum Forum Chair, Murray, G6JYB, and Ian, G4FSU or HF Manager. Our Microwave Manager, Barry, G4SGH, was also there, but wearing his IARU hat as lead on 23 SEMS issues. These were of special importance this year, leading up to the World Radio Conference which was to follow. The Region 1 Conference was a culmination of many months of work by our Spectrum Forum members, including the preparation of papers, covering many areas including ARDF. This was one area that had caused some quite heated discussion because of the somewhat arbitrary sacking of the previous IARU Region 1 ARDF chair. An RSGB paper produced by Bob Titterington, G3ORY, on this subject was ably presented by Murray. Following a vote, it was accepted that the communications in this matter had not been handled well, and the Region 1 Executive Committee were invited to set out a clear plan to handle safety concerns, dispute resolutions and communications for the future. Other RSGB papers which were warmly received in the C5, VU and SHF Committee included updates to 77 band planning and ATV contests, as well as other aspects of the 23 SEM situation. As this was my first IARU event, it was very interesting to hear reports and papers from across the region. Listening to the pressures faced by all societies, it's clear that there's a common theme of diminishing numbers, increasing costs and an ageing profile. The demographic time bomb is not just ticking for the RSGB, but for amateur radio throughout the world. So it is time for everyone to sit up and take notice. Turning now to an area that I have a particular interest in, ways to get young people involved in the hobby. With an ageing membership in the UK and across the world, we need to sow seeds to get more young people involved in amateur radio. For some, this could lead to a lifelong career in RF engineering. This was my experience when I passed on the radio amateur examination back in the late 60s, led me into a 40-year career in professional communications. I know increasing the number of RF engineers is something that our regulator and government will support. For other youngsters, it may give them an awareness of a fascinating hobby with many and varied areas of interest. Even though that interest may wane as they get settled in careers and family life, it's something that they can return to in later years. The RSGB supported British Science Week again this year, where the theme was time. This was a week of fun, mostly for young people, with STEM subjects relating to time and all its aspects. In our case, we had excellent participation from a number of schools, which included South Durham University Technical College, Melcombe Oak Community School near Bath, and St Peter and Thanet CE Junior School in Broadstairs. Many thanks to John Hislop, G7OHO, for creating some great amateur radio activities covering radio signals and space probes, time zones and timing and Morse code. Thanks also to Professor Ian Neal, M0KEO, for being our British Science Week coordinator this year. The RSGB also launched a new challenge for British Science Week, and there's still time to get involved. You can find out more on the RSGB website. The board is very fortunate in having Ben Lloyd, GW4BML, as our director with responsibility for youth. He's taking forward a number of initiatives in this area, with great work being done in schools, with the Scouts participating in STEM events and YOTA, or Youngsters on the Air. Ben is also a very keen SOTA, or Summits on the Air operator, and has achieved multiple Mountain Goat awards. I'm certainly no mountain goat, but I teamed up with Ben on a couple of occasions. The first event was a contact, summit to summit, from North Antrim to the remote island of Seaforth in the Outer Hebrides. On the second outing, I actually climbed with Ben to the top of Divis Mountain near Belfast and aired my special presidential call sign, GB4RS, which resulted in quite a pile-up on 40 metres. So why not get out there yourselves, play some interesting radio, and keep fit at the same time? I know that social media can be very divisive, but when used effectively, it can be a great asset, enabling our message to reach places where we would not normally be heard. Facebook is now our main platform engagement, with a 200% increase in people visiting and often thousands of likes and comments on a single post. Print and broadcast media also play a very important part in getting amateur radio into the public arena. A prime example is when our comms team focused on local media for National Coding Week. Activities led by John Hislop, G7OHO, in a local school were covered by an article in the Isle of Thanet News, which has an online news audience of around 10,000, and in a BBC Radio Kent radio interview with the station's approximately 200,000 listeners per week. We also work with national journalists, and in January of 2023 we reached a potential online audience of over 42 million with an article in the Times. Whilst getting a society and amateur radio mentioned in the media is not always an easy task, our media monitoring service reported 588 mentions of the RSGB in 2023, which had a massive potential audience of almost 1 billion. The RSGB National Radio Centre at Bletchley Park was open almost all year round in 2023 and welcomed 80,000 visitors. The NRC typically has 3 or 4 volunteers working most days, who between them spend more than 9,000 hours explaining and demonstrating amateur radio to visitors. The NRC also hosted and supported a number of events last year. As part of our support to clubs, the Centre welcomed 12 clubs and 2 cadet and scout troops for evening visits, with many more visiting during normal opening hours. Overall, during 2023, almost 4,000 QSOs are made from the NRC using the permanent special event call sign GB3RS. From these impressive numbers, you can see why the NRC plays such a key part in our growth of amateur radio strategic priority. The Society depends greatly on its dedicated band of volunteers. So as I come to the end of this review of the year, I would especially like to highlight the great work done at the World Radio Conference in December. Our spectrum is looked on enviously by others, and consequently it is a very important part of the strategic priorities listed previously. The amateur spectrum must be rigorously defended, and one prime example is in the case of 23 centimetres. Our use was likely to be wiped out by administrations who wished to impose impossible restraints on amateur users of the band in order to protect the radio navigation satellite service. After a huge amount of preparation and very long sessions at the WRC Conference, a successful compromise was reached, which hopefully will permit our continued use of the band for years to come. The IARU team responsible is led by the RSGB Microwave Manager, Barry Lewis, G4SJH, and I thank him for his outstanding work in achieving this result. Our Spectrum Forum Chair Murray Neyman, G6JYB, represented UK amateur interests at WRC as a member of the Ofcom delegation. We owe him a huge debt of gratitude for participating in the many midnight oil sessions in protecting our bands right across the entire radio spectrum, and also, of course, for his earlier and continuing work with the review of the amateur licence. WRC meetings are not just held in the working day, but carry on into the wee small hours, so you can imagine the sheer effort needed to maintain concentration over such protracted sessions. What a year this has been then. First of all, the Ofcom Consultation on reviewing the amateur licensing framework is now concluded and has resulted in a new licence which is a game changer for amateurs in the UK. We finally got underway with our revised strategy and have started to build our outreach team and set some goals. There has been some great work done by our spectrum experts in protecting our bands. And lastly, the board was delighted to approve a Lifetime Achievement Award to Chris Whitmarsh, G0FDZ, for his unique achievement in UK amateur radio. He is the only amateur to have had a two-way QSO on every single band for which we are licensed, right from 73 kHz all the way up to 288 GHz. I was pleased to present this award to Chris at the Cray Valley Amateur Radio Society meeting in March, where I was also accompanied by the board chair. In conclusion, I would like to thank everyone, whether staff or volunteers, who have assisted me through this first year of my term as President. The work has been much more than I imagined when I took up the role, and without you it would have been much more difficult. It was great to meet many people at the RSGB convention and at other events, and I look forward to meeting many more of you in the coming year.